Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. Well, it's been another eventful week and a very successful one from the standpoint of our forecast. But first, I really want to thank you for making last week's video the most viewed video on the Time Trades channel. So thanks again for that. Since I seem to be attracting a few new viewers, I'm going to spend a little bit of time this week reviewing kind of the basics of time trades and what it's about. But first, let's start with a review of last week's forecast. You can see it on the screen here. You're looking at the NASDAQ futures daily chart. I'm using regular bars here, not Heikin-Ashi. And during last week's video, we drew this yellow arrow that went up into kind of the middle of this week, Wednesday, October 26th, although that isn't like drawn with daily precision. The point of this arrow is really just to land in this target box here based on the forecast information we had last week. And after that, we're drawing a forecast arrow down into the next forecast pivot point late in November around the white magic level at 9,300. So let's just take a minute to evaluate how we did in the past week. So when we drew this last week, we had information up to here, Friday, October 14th, and it was a very volatile week. There was lots of emotion on social media, lots of forecasts of crashes. Yes, we were in a crash window, but also most of the time, those crash windows pass without a crash actually happening. So you will very rarely, if ever, hear me forecast a crash. Last week, we had actually a bullish forecast based on mostly this wick on the CPI day on Thursday. And you can see it better on the ES. If we flip over to the ES here, you can see that wick that dropped down below the white magic level on the ES futures at 35.70 and then closed above it. That's actually a short-term bullish signal because these white magic levels tend to be very strong and can contribute to multi-day bounces when you get price action like this. And that's exactly what we saw. We know that this 35.70 level on ES is very important. And it took multiple tries to break through that on the upside. We went over that in last week's video. So the logic was that it's going to take multiple tries to break through on the downside. And that's exactly what we're seeing so far. So from last week's close on Friday, at 10,744 on the NASDAQ futures, we closed this past Friday at 11,358. And that's an increase of 5.7%. Very much in line with the yellow arrow I drew here. So I give myself an A for this forecast. Especially considering the, all of the emotion that was floating around out there on social media. So very good week from a forecast standpoint. Now, I think we're going to spend the rest of the time today looking ahead to what can we expect later in this week. And in the forecast area that we've got here, we're still calling for a pivot sometime this week. So let's review the latest information on that and see if that's still valid. Okay, so before we do that, I do want to do a quick review of what time trades is for the new viewers and go over what it's about and what you can expect from it. And I always go back to this framework for decision making because for new time trades users, a common mistake is people think, oh, it's using machine learning, so it's always right. I just need to trade with the probabilities, and it's a computer, so it always knows the answer. And that's actually not the most effective way to make use of this information. So it's important to understand that price is always the most important. So What we use to evaluate price in the time trades method is number one, magic levels. That's probably the single most important part of time trades, are these things called magic levels. And these are based on a combination of Fibonacci and Pythagorean levels. The price action around magic levels is very, very important, and also fairly predictable as well. I go into more detail in the types of patterns you can expect around magic levels in the time trades user manual, which is available on the website. And also we use Heikin-Ashi bars a lot. So this is the most important part of time trades, really, is those magic levels. Next up is contextual information, things like Gann waves. Those are blue and yellow vertical timelines that appear on the chart, as well as cheat code time periods and other aspects of timing context here. And these help to identify different time periods, because not every day is the same. And as we take a look at different patterns and price action, it's important to understand sort of what is the broader timing context, and indicators like this can help to identify that. And then finally, we get down to the third most important item, which is the daily machine learning forecasts. And these are the probabilities. Okay, so the number one thing you should take away from this, if you're new to time trades, is don't just blindly trade based on the daily forecast and probabilities. The most important thing is price. You cannot ignore that. Okay, third most important is daily forecasts. All right, so with that being said, let's go and take a look at what has changed and improved on the website in the past week. So we did add some new machine learning features this past week. I added planetary apogee and perigee. So this is when the planets are furthest away from the sun and closest to the sun. Apogee is furthest away, perigee is closest. And in my tests, I confirmed a nice little improvement in accuracy with that. So that is now live on the website, and we are going to be showing the effect of that in today's probabilities. Okay, so we also updated the roadmap here and delivered a few items against the roadmap that was shared last week. So last week we talked about data provider changes, including adding access to indexes such as NIFTY and BANKNIFTY in India on the National Stock Exchange there. And we delivered that with 3 new indexes. The AXJO is the Australian index it's not 2000, it's 200. That's a typo. So it's the 200 biggest stocks in Australia. So that's there, as well as NSEI, which is commonly known as the Nifty, as well as the BANKNIFTY using the symbol NSE Bank. So all of these are there, and these are all taking advantage of the new data provider that we opened an account with a few days ago. So we're already starting to see the benefits of that. Okay, so that is a review of time trades and the roadmap and the latest machine learning changes. So let's go and take a look at what we've got here for the forecast for the coming week. So I always like to start with the Qs and take a look at all of the indexes to build a forecast. So starting with the Qs, we can see here that this cluster of pivot highs has been pretty constant. It was there last week, and that was used to inform last week's forecast. It's still there this week. Keep in mind that these probabilities do get updated every night to take into account the latest price action. So they can and will change if you're new to time trades. Like, these are not locked in stone. So expect some changes here in these probabilities from day to day. That being said, we still have a pretty high set of pivot highs, from 88% to 84% probability this week. Now that's Monday through Thursday. But then we've got also a big cluster of moves down here as we head into December. So this forecast from the time trades machine learning probabilities is still generally in line with what we drew out last week in terms of the yellow forecast arrow. So let's take a look at spiders. Okay, so on the spiders, again, very similar to the Qs. It's nice to see this kind of alignment. We've got basically high probabilities of a pivot high every day this week, along with some green probabilities of a move up, 53% net probability of a move up on Friday. Okay, so again, this is in line with our forecast for some sort of significant high occurring this week. Okay, but then after that, we're starting to see big clusters of red here, indicating moves down through mid-November and early December. Let's take a look at the Dow. So the Dow is showing a lot more green here. So it's showing a lot more potential for a move up this week, but also we still see that same cluster of pivot highs this week, starting on Tuesday the 25th and going through Monday the 31st. So that is generally in alignment with the other indexes as well. We don't see quite as much red on the Dow here. However, it's we still do see red during the same time periods, you know, heading into mid-November and early to mid-December. Okay, so those are the main indexes there. So I consider that pretty supportive of our existing forecast. The other stock that I want to take a look at is Microsoft, and Microsoft is also very much in line with our forecast here. We've got a pivot high on Wednesday the 26th, and then a big cluster of increasing probability of down days heading into early December as well. So based on all this, I actually do not see a reason to change this yellow forecast arrow, right? We've got a high forecast sometime this week. Could be Wednesday, could be Tuesday, could be Friday, anywhere in the green box. And I'd call that a correct forecast. And then we start to see increasing probabilities of moves down into late November, possibly early December. And that's captured here with this green forecast box down here. So we're going to leave this forecast arrow as is. It worked pretty well for us last week, and we don't see any information that would cause us to change our forecast going forward. So we're going to run with that. Let's go back to time trades and take a look at what else we can see here for the next week or so. One of the trades we've been watching, and I took a few short-term trades on NVDA. NVIDIA is also very much aligned with that forecast. We've got some moves up forecast for this week heading into Tuesday, and then a pivot high on Friday. So we still might be able to squeeze a few more points out of NVIDIA. It really is getting bogged down here. Right around the white magic level. Remember, one of the price action behaviors that we tend to see around magic levels is if it gets through, it'll often come back for a retest. So that's something to keep in mind. We saw that here. It got through on October 3rd, popped up to 136, came back for a retest, failed the retest, regained its footing down here at 109, and now it looks like it's taking another run at that white magic level at 123. Okay, so NVIDIA is still working okay. Let's take a look at another trade we've been following here is UNG. Now, UNG is a good example of a stock that updated its forecast based on price action. Okay, so these big red bars didn't used to be there, but because Time Trades updates its forecast every day, it incorporates the latest price information. We can see that big drop on Tuesday the 18th. So that tells the machine learning that, hey, this was a 2 standard deviation move down, and we need to retrain the models based on what was happening in the sky on the 18th of October. So that's what happened. That's where this forecast red down day came from. It came from actual price action, and then the new associations that were formed on that day are used to project forward. Okay, so we still see that heading down. It's right at the $18 magic level on UNG, and it looks like there's still more down pressure to come through early November. All right, now one of the things that's interesting about UNG, if we flip over to TradingView here and take a look, UNG, I like to trade it because it's very, I guess, aligned with the yellow and blue Gann waves. So these are the blue line here is a Gann wave. The yellow line here is a Gann wave. A Gann wave is basically, imagine a sine wave in your head, and blue is the bottom, yellow is the top, and green is the 0 point of that sine wave. So you can see here that basically it spent the first 2 weeks of October going sideways, and more often than not, sideways action tends to conclude with price being the same on Gann wave days. So we can see here that price was about $22 on October 3rd, and we come over here to the next Gann wave yellow, and it closed on the Friday before that Gann wave yellow around 22.3 as well. So very close alignment here in price. And then Monday morning is when the rug pull happened, and it was basically in free fall the entire week. You can see how it crossed below the white magic level here, and it looks like it's coming back for a retest. So when this happens, UNG does have a tendency to line up with the Gann waves very strongly. So I'm actually in this right now short. I'm playing for a move down through the next blue Gann wave at the end of October. So that is one trade that's working pretty well for me right now. All right, so that is UNG. Let's go back and take a look at what else we can see here in terms of bonds and currencies, because that's always very important to look at the moment. So within time trades, we've got, we use the symbol UUP to look at the US dollar. So I'm just going to turn off cheat code and turn on Gann waves, and away we go. So when it comes to the dollar, we're not seeing a very I guess opinionated forecast from the machine learning at the moment. It looks like a little bit of chop here. We've got some up days, we've got some down days. I'm not seeing a super clear forecast either one way or another based on this information. Okay, let's go and take a look at bonds to see what we can see here, starting with the 7 to 10-year Treasury bond ETF. Again, I'm going to turn off cheat codes. I'm going to turn on Gann waves, and we can take a look at this. What we're seeing here is it looks like maybe a little bit more down pressure in bonds this week. We've got a small cluster of potential pivot lows, and we've got some moves down. Always good to see this in combination. So each of these swim lanes, the probabilities are calculated with a separate machine learning model. And so there's no I guess, knowledge of what the pivot highs are when we calculate the down days. So when we see down days that align with the pivot lows down here, this is a good thing. We like to see this kind of alignment. So it looks like we've got a little bit more down pressure on bonds, which is incredible considering how far down they've come since August. But then it looks like there's potential for a move up here in November and December. So that's something we need to watch very closely. If bonds indeed do move up here, I think that would cause us to reassess our bearish stock forecast, because if we do get this move up here, obviously interest rates are going down. That's going to be very supportive for stocks. So we need to be aware of that and not get locked into that forecast where we're showing kind of a very bearish view on stocks down into November, December. So the bond behavior is something we need to watch very, very closely here, because if we do get this massive rally in bonds, that's going to be super supportive for stocks. Okay, let's take a look at TLT. This is the long bond, the 30-year treasury. Again, we're going to turn off cheat codes. We're going to turn on Gann waves. And what do we see here? Do we see that kind of bullish move that we saw in IEF? A little bit. It's not as strong or as pronounced, but we do see certainly a move up here forecast for early November and also early December. So again, this is something we need to be aware of to, sort of temper our bearish forecast. Okay, so that's bonds. We've covered UNG, we've covered Microsoft and NVIDIA. Let's take a quick look at crypto, and then we can go and take a look at some of the new indexes like the NIFTY and BANKNIFTY. Okay, so starting with Bitcoin. What we're seeing here on Bitcoin is, it's really been multiple weeks of sideways consolidation. And I guess the most positive thing we can say here is it's not going down. It's also not going up either. Maybe it's best just to go in hibernation and, I don't know, wake up in early December at this pivot low and then start paying attention to Bitcoin. But yeah, this kind of stuff, it's unless you're working on super low timeframes, this is the kind of trading that is just going to chop your account to bits. So we do see some evidence of positive price action here starting in October, but I think that maybe the wise thing here would be just to put this on hold until early December. Maybe wait for this little cluster of red to finish up and look for maybe a Christmas rally in Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Do we see the same thing? Well, we're seeing maybe a little bit more green on Ethereum and pivot high up here as well. This magic level at 1364 remains a brick wall. So we'll, again, maybe the best thing for Ethereum is just to, wait for 1364 to be regained, close above it, and then a retest of that magic level before considering any longs. And also we see, a small pivot low here at the end of November, and then a pivot high. In theory, we should be seeing some sort of move up here into the November 2nd pivot high. That's probably the strongest short-term feature here. Well, let's just wait until after this these down days wrap up, in the middle of this week, and then we've got some lower probability moves up starting the 27th, heading into the 31st, and we can take advantage of that for a short-term bull trade. But in general, it doesn't look like there's a major long-term trend here starting. We are in eclipse season. We don't tend to see massive trends starting during eclipse season. So yeah, be aware of that. And looking ahead here, there's a very nice large pivot low feature in January that, you know, who knows, maybe that's the start of something big in Ethereum. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the new indexes we added. We'll start with AXJO, the Australian 200 index. And we've got a very nice cluster of moves up here this week, so that's very bullish. So that's a nice signal here, and we see that increasing throughout the week. So who knows, we may be able to approach the August highs here, or even challenge this magic level. Personally, I'd be surprised if we can, you know, sort of clear this magic level here at 72.34. But this is a pretty bullish cluster of up days here. So we may be able to retrace even more of this August, even more of the price structure since this August high. Let's take a look at NSEI. That is the new Nifty 50 that we added. And we've got some a little cluster of moves up here in conjunction with a pivot high. Again, pretty similar to the North American indexes, the Qs and the spiders. So looks like a generally bullish week here for the Nifty. Let's take a look at NSE Bank. And NSE Bank, maybe not as bullish as the broader Nifty. There's a little pivot high here on Friday that we had, and of course Monday is a holiday, it's Diwali, and then the last 3 days of the week we've got some pivots down in the forecast. So a little bit of cross currents in the Indian markets where the Bank Nifty is not confirming the broader Nifty 50 index. Okay, so that's it for me. Thanks for joining me this week. Trade safe, and we will see you again next week. Bye now.